Hello, I'm Martin Kentish from Free Range People, the developers of the Healthfeedback system which you're about to see. What I will be covering in this brief presentation is an introduction to the company before discussing the key components to Healthfeedback, why it's different, and then run you through some examples of how the tools have already been used to provide solutions to other people. The company was started in 2008 after realising that most feedback didn't work well. It was often too cumbersome to use, too slow to generate improvements, and didn't take into account many of the practical issues associated with gathering and using feedback as an improvement tool. I'm the founder, and I've spent 15 years as a programmer, analyst, and a consultant in the area of feedback. So when we came up with the idea and developed some technical solutions and pitched them to several companies, we were surprised with the response, winning projects with some leading brands across many sectors, from Tesco, McDonald's, various mental health trusts, and one of our first projects was with the Royal Navy. We quickly realised that even though our solutions worked across many sectors, how they were marketed needed to be very different. So in response to this, we created several brands based on the same technology with a view to at some point spinning them out as separate organisations. This includes Fido for education, Branch Advisor for retail, and Healthfeedback for the health sector. Healthfeedback has been successfully deployed in organisations like CEPT, which is one of the largest NHS trusts, Norfolk Community Health and Care, and Luton and Dunstable Hospital. Although each solution was different due to different requirements, they were all based on the same common toolbox used everywhere else. The key components to our solution are as follows. First of all, any solution has to be simple, both in terms of its implementation and its use by patients and staff. We found it far more beneficial if we can start with a simple approach and evolve complexity later on, rather than try to overcomplicate things in the beginning. In our experience, the most valuable approaches are the simplest, which is why we have always been advocates of the Net Promoter Score approach. Secondly, a system has to be fast, both in terms of implementation and scalability, but also generate constant incremental improvements in real time. Our model has always been to deliver fresh, meaningful insight to the right person in a real-time way, as a way of building constant improvements into the DNA of the organisation. Thirdly, the system needed to be flexible to adapt and evolve when requirements change. Not limited by the boundaries of the technology, but free to embrace key technologies and changes in line with our clients' needs. And lastly, the system had to be scalable and produce constant incremental improvements. The latter is often a new approach, as traditionally people collect loads of data over a long period of time, generate complex reports, then struggle to turn them into meaningful insight. Many solutions which are out there are quite rigid, and it was rather like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, i.e. trying to fit how you want it to work into a system that worked in a different way. And to address this, our solution is essentially a toolbox from which we can rapidly build a solution that exactly matches your own requirements. To give you an idea of the timescales associated with doing this, a straightforward solution using NPS as a key metric can go live in 2 to 3 days after conception. So how we work is to first spend time with you finding out what exactly you need to be doing. This is an essential part of the project because it also examines some of the operational constraints placed on capturing data, such as the relationship between your own staff and clinicians, or the clinicians and their patients. And once we've tied down what you need to be doing, we can then agree a costed project plan. And lastly, once this is agreed, we can then go ahead with a pilot should you wish to, before scaling up as fast as you need to. So this process essentially discovers what you need to ask and of who, what to do with the response when it comes in, and what reports you need to see via the online dashboard. So what do we actually do? Well, first of all, we provide you with all the conceivable ways to capture feedback. This gives you complete flexibility on how you engage people and how you want to hear from them. This includes SMS messaging, QR code responses, web forms, telephone feedback, feedback cards and their processing, apps for iOS devices such as iPads, iPhones and Android devices, and the latter gives you freedom to use the technology your staff may already have to capture data in real time. Secondly, we then automate the processing of that response. This includes, for example, delivering the response to an individual or group, pumping the data into your own legacy systems, tracking the staff response, or just thanking the respondent for the time that they're taken to offer their feedback. And lastly, we make a dashboard available for you to generate whatever reports you define. This is a live dashboard, so as soon as the response is received, you can view it via the dashboard. So let's look at a live example, which is a live implementation of the NHS Friends and Family test. First of all, a feedback card can be handed to a patient. Inside this card, it explains the various ways to respond. In this instance, it's via the web, email, SMS text messaging, a call centre and by post. And this area on the left could also be used for any information delivery. The physical card may be torn off and sent back, or the completed section sealed and posted back in its entirety. Note, each card is coded for a particular service, so we know who the response is for. So even though postal cards cannot be used to deliver real-time insight, there's usually only a 48-hour delay between the card being completed, received in the post, and entered into the database. Another method of capturing the feedback is using apps. Here the Healthfeedback app presents the same information on an iPad, and the iPad sends back the data in real time, unless there is no 3G, GPRS or Wi-Fi connection, in which case it stores it locally until a connection is made available, and at that point it automatically sends the data back. And note, these types of devices can be easily mounted on stands to create a low-cost kiosk type approach. In these two examples, we show how data may be instantly delivered to a person's inbox. The format and content of these emails may be completely defined by you, and in the left, the Respond Now button gives you the member of the staff an opportunity to call up a web-based form to enter their actions or even send a message back to the original sender. And this is a useful way of tracking staff engagement and their responses. This opportunity to deliver the response in real time is just one of the options available as part of the response processing. Other options could include pumping this information into a third-party system for more in-depth analysis later. And lastly, we have a reporting suite that is made available to people via suitable logins. A tailored dashboard control panel allows them to produce the defined reports to present the received data in an appropriate way. And note the report on the right is taken from basic NPS type data, and it shows NPS scores, averages, breakdowns, change over time, response rates, and the verbatim comments broken down into promoter, detractor, and neutral comments. The report on the left is the same information presented in a different way that be more suitable for distribution to the public. And then in the middle there, it just shows you a CSV download, giving people the opportunity to download the data into third-party products. And I hope this demonstrates that you've got complete freedom to capture, process, act upon and report on the feedback in a way that makes continuous improvement a part of your organizational DNA. The outcome of all this is threefold. One, you have clients who are happier because you have really considered them in the opportunity for giving their feedback. You may even feed back this response to them, adding value to the relationship that you've already got. Secondly, staff are happier because the insight they receive is relevant to their work and easy to use. They will, for example, receive more praise to reinforce their good work, but also help them understand some areas for improvement. And lastly, this approach continually improves performance, streamlines processes, improves efficiency, and saves money. In looking at the requirements document that you sent, we can easily answer the points raised. First of all, with the exception of postal responses, all the insight is captured, delivered, and reportable in real time. Secondly, response rates are maximized because you've made it very easy for people to respond in a way that is convenient for them. Thirdly, qualitative comments are an integral part of what we do, and they are probably the most important element of a project as it helps people understand directly where they're doing well and where they can improve. Our systems are easily provided, piloted, scaled, and ceased. Simple systems like the Friends and Family test, for example, can be made available in a matter of days to any number of service areas. All the reports are fully defined by you and completely customizable to meet your requirements at any stage. And as before, by providing the various ways to engage people and receive their response, it's made much easier to increase participation. Every element of the solution, not just the questions and the reports, is fully customizable on a client, contractor, or even an individual basis. And lastly, our approach is highly innovative, not just in the technology that we use, but in the approach and philosophy that we've got. Other considerations that you mentioned in the requirements document have been considered. For example, any type of tablet can be used, whether this is an iPad, an Android device, or a PC. It's easy to provide a kiosk-style approach, simply encapsulating the tablet approach in a suitable plinth. We highly recommend you pilot the system in a small set of services before you consider scaling up. Next point, the system captures, delivers reports on information in real time, and we meet all the necessary security and information governance requirements that are laid down in the NHS. Updates and upgrades are available automatically, not requiring staff to do anything. And we try to make the system as easy as possible in order to reduce the training requirements. We'd rather provide a system that is intuitively usable than a complex system which would require considerable training. Development is continuously ongoing in line with changing client requirements and the accessibility of new technologies. And lastly, everything is replicated and backed up daily, meaning that you do not have to worry about data loss. And here we address some of the requirements laid down by the IT team. The first point is that you're completely free to choose the type of input device you use, from standard phones to sending text feedback, tablets, iOS devices, or even Android devices, and we provide all the necessary channels for feedback in all those. Next point, logic is completely configurable to process a response. You decide what the logic needs to do. Thirdly, the transfer is automatic through any available network from 3G, GPRS or Wi-Fi. And lastly, it is very easy to add additional forms whenever needed. So to summarise, health feedback should be seen as a toolbox to rapidly provide you with a solution that is appropriate to your business. Whilst many requirements are similar to other clients, the toolbox allows any type of solution to be rapidly created and deployed to help you in terms of generating incremental improvements. So thank you very much for listening. If you've got any more questions, please drop me a line via the Free Range People or Health Feedback email address.